Holy, that was one of the darker moments I have seen in anime, and I'm gonna have to be very careful with how I explain this, given YouTube's guidelines. But I have to admit, this episode hit harder than Zem's allegation, and I wasn't expecting that. And to see how similar these two are with the false allegations and how extreme they are, and the fact that, just considering the fact that had Zem not gone to that table and had a drunken night with these characters, who knows what type of dark, twisted things he might have got into. But you have this man who pretty much everyone seemed to be in agreement that the priest is probably the one behind the kidnappings and that it was most likely related to this yellow disease. That being revealed isn't necessarily shocking, but it makes sense given the context of what he's trying to explain. It doesn't excuse the whole concept of basically he's kidnapping kids, infecting them with the disease in order to try to cure it. So basically, the ends justify the means, but as it gets thrown in his face, that's not a random kid, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's family. It's twisted, it's messed up, and that by itself is a pretty heavy moment. But what really gets twisted is what caused him to get to that point. So this disease in this world is basically an STD, meaning only through intimate acts should you normally catch said disease. This man had a daughter who ended up getting that disease, and through allegations, no matter what he said, it was viewed that he was the one who gave her the disease because that disease normally is only given through intimate means. What actually happened was that because he was a man, he was a doctor working with people, trying to help people, the daughter tried to be just like her dad, and in return, she came into contact with infected blood, which gave her the disease, and no matter what was said, he was never believed. This turned him onto a path of, well, he lost his daughter, and he wants to at the very least make sure that her sacrifice wasn't for nothing, or that her death wasn't for nothing. So by kidnapping kids and giving them that disease, he has test subjects to try to cure this disease. It is messed up. It is twisted as hell. But I have to admit, these are the moments that really shape an anime into something you're not going to be forgetting about anytime soon. Now, before we jump any further, gotta mention, we have that full live reaction available on my Patreon. Definitely a very exciting and shocking episode to say the least, so if you're interested, head on over there and consider supporting. Definitely my favorite episode of the show, hands down. The first 2 minutes of this episode was actually probably the best produced the show's ever looked. Some crisp art details, some pretty solid animation. And yeah, it goes back to what you kind of expect from this show, but man, the heaviness. You get the fusion with Nick and Zem, which really I wasn't expecting to see, but the fact that they all kind of had a fusion at some point, a moment with their backstory to present day content, you literally have the reveal that this reporter, who I was still seeing some skepticism, oh, what if she is actually a little twisted still? Turns out, just like our favorite sword Bond, turns out to be a sword herself, which definitely explains some things in this episode when literally you have this dude in the suit of armor that no matter how much you damage the mask, it basically repairs itself. Giant sword comes in, casually catches it like it's a butter knife, and no damage done whatsoever. So there's a lot that really is setting in motion that a lot of people are probably going to want to jump into the source material when the show does wrap up next week. But man, the star of this episode had to be Zem and this priest. So seriously, there's sometimes reveals in anime that just almost immediately sucker punch you, but the reveals that really continue to last in your mind for weeks on end are the ones that sucker punch you throughout the entire episode, and the more you think about it, the more twisted it becomes. And I think anytime you have kids and stuff like that, false allegations to that degree, Zem I thought would be hard to top, given the fact that this little girl ruined his life through very horrible allegations. The fact that you decided to say, I'm gonna let Zem hold my beer and make it even worse. I'm not saying what the dude did to these kids is justified by any means, absolutely not. I think his death was probably, it needed to happen, right? Obviously, he didn't do it starting out because he was a horrible person, but once you cross a certain line, there's no coming back. But what I'm saying is the thing that triggered this man to go to that length is absolutely some of the darkest things that I can remember in some time. Because to have someone who literally devoted their life to helping people, and I'm not saying I can't see how maybe it could seem like a lie to the average person. I don't know how I would respond to that if I heard something like that in our own world. It'd be very easy to say, normally that's how it's transmitted. So yeah, that does seem very, very messy up. But the fact that you have a man so devoted and a daughter just, probably trying to hold the blood or something, or just doing something, trying to help someone in need, getting a disease that kills them, so then your mind gets so twisted my life's ruined, her life is gone, what can I do other than try to cure this disease so this never happens again? If it takes 1,000 kids, then so be it. At the very least, there will be a cure and the end will justify the means. Does it in this case? No, but I completely see how someone got to that broken mentality to think like that, and as a narrative, heavy stuff. And I love how this show can be goofy, can be ridiculous, it can be weird, it can be heartbreakingly depressing. It has so much about this world that it's a Western, it's an idol show. There's so much about this that this world feels more living and breathing than most shows set in an isekai fantasy environment, because rather than trying to make it conform to one style, it said this world's living and breathing. There's highs, there's lows, there's so many different styles that this world has to offer, and because of that, that's why I've come back here every single week. This isn't the most popular series of the season, by any means, but it's one that I definitely don't think I'll be forgetting. I actually mentioned it in the live reaction I mentioned right around the beginning, is that, will I remember the show in a year's time? And I said, most likely no, but at the same time, there's been shows like The Faraway Paladin that I didn't think maybe I'd remember a few seasons later, and I still think about that show because it was such a different take on a genre. And similar, even though I don't think the show has done quite as well in terms of really blowing me away from production to narrative to characterization, I would put that show slightly above this one. But an episode like this has really cemented it, as I would be shocked if I'm still not thinking about this show a year from now. This isn't the type of show that does well enough to probably warrant more videos if a season 2 was made on the main channel, but it's one I'm gonna keep watching if they keep making, because there really isn't a lot like it. On paper, a lot of the ideas are familiar, but the execution of them is heavy, it's realistic, and the things that are more goofy, they're so charming in such a way that I really can't see myself comparing. And that's why I keep saying, I'm not here saying the production of this show is 10 out of 10. It has a very small production team. But the fact that with all the shows that have gone on so many delays and breaks that you don't even know if they're coming back anytime soon, if ever. The fact that a show like this knew it had restrictions, knew it had limitations, and did what they could with the time provided so they didn't have to take breaks. I respect that. I really do. Would I have preferred more crisp art detail? Would I have preferred more animation that wasn't sometimes characters sliding around? Of course, but the narrative, the VA work, the music, everything is holding the show together, and the show doesn't look ugly to me. It does dip, and it does look mediocre at times, but it doesn't look ugly in the slightest, and I respect a show that, if you look at this show, if you would have pointed a gun at my head at the beginning of this season within the first few episodes of all the shows starting, I would have picked this among a few shows that I thought would end up going on hiatus, because it visually looked the weakest out of most shows that I was watching. Yet here it is, one episode to go, going strong. To me, I respect that. Maybe that's just me, but I have seen some people agree with me in the comments. Yeah, we ain't making excuses. It's not the most popped off show visually, but the show is consistent and we respect that. And when you get an episode like this that is this heavy, this well written, it doesn't excuse a man's actions, but damn does it explain how he got that to that direction. To see Zem almost see himself in this man and to be so heartbroken but still come out of that more alive than ever, I mean, I'm glad I got at least one big moment with each character, and with one episode to go with a pretty shocking cliffhanger all things considered, I know we're not wrapping this whole story up, but like I've said a few different times, I can leave this show feeling like I got to know these characters at their highs and their lows, and we're not going to see their entire lives. They literally are presented as the characters who will someday save the world. We're not going to see everything in their lives anyway, so can I leave 12 episodes potentially never seeing more anime feeling like I had a fulfilling time? Yeah, I really can. Fun action, while maybe not the most polished thing ever, it was creative with the fusions, and man, do the character arcs really hold this show together. But that's just my feelings. Thoughts, feelings yourself down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload on the channel, and of course, as I mentioned, we do have that full live reaction available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get a video shoutout. So today, we have Danny0018, Hermes Hemp, Fate, Top Speed, and Edray Zahari. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.